this idea of rugged individualism and just, do it all yourself and like don't ask for help unless you're like literally falling off the damn cliff. That way of thinking doesn't serve anybody. It certainly doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve the people that actually want to support you. My guess is if you have an idea that you've been wanting to bring to life, and I don't care if that's quilting your next blanket or solving for world hunger, there are some other people in your life that would probably love to see you do this, to be a part of you doing it, and that you would be an inspiration for them. You don't have to create the table on your own, right? You can enlist others. You can see who's with you. I want to be in the room where it happens. If you feel this way, stay tuned. Today we're talking about creating your own table. I'm your host, Tosca DiMatteo of this podcast, The Unlock Lab. So welcome. For those who may be new, I do transformation work. I help people get unstuck in their lives, and I help organizations to put people first in their cultures. If you want to learn more about how you can work with me, visit CoachTosca.com. Yes, creating our own table is sometimes what is necessary for us to take control of what it is that we want. I've lived this life with this kind of dichotomy of wanting to be invited to tables and frustrated that I haven't been invited to the ones that I want, and wanting to create my own. This only gets exacerbated, I think, as I left corporate. I left corporate, right? And I created my own table. I created my own company. But that's not necessarily what's required to really honor that there's something that you're passionate about and you have complete control over how you make that happen, how you manifest, how you are a part of the conversations that you want to be a part of. And maybe the way that you've been looking at it is if you're invited to this room, you can have that conversation. You have this narrow band of allowance for what it could look like to be in the rooms that you want to be in. Then you may be missing other opportunities to have the impact that you want to have. You see, we all have creative energy inside of us. We have an art and a science within us, whether that means we're looking at a new way to forecast, whether we're creating a painting that's in our heart, or we have a new way to express an old idea. We don't need to find permission from anybody to bring this to the surface. We don't have to wait to be invited to the party to wear our freaking amazing dress that we love. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? You see, the more that I realize how we're living in outdated structures and we're living in power dynamics that only serve those who are still in power, we have to realize that to bring what we want to bring forth in this world, sometimes we have to create our own table to do it. Now, let's just stop and ask yourself, right? When was the last time you did this? Maybe you literally brought people around a table at the last holiday gathering. Maybe you created your own table when you decided to start that last passion project at work. Maybe you decided to leave your job and start your own side hustle, or maybe you started a side hustle while you're in your job. All of these are ways that you are bringing what you desire to the table. This episode is really all about asking yourself, what are those deep seated desires that you've had brewing in yourself for years that maybe you haven't gone after? Sometimes with these whispers or these ideas that we have, sometimes we wait. Sometimes we're inching closer to those ideas, and sometimes we take big leaps forward. We can experiment with pushing envelopes and testing out these thoughts. And maybe when we do that, we get pushed back and we put it back in the box and we pretend that we don't need to actually take any more action on it. And in this moment, it's spring. right? Like we're stepping into a new season. So in this new season, is there a table, quote unquote, that you want to create now? When was the last time you honored your desire to bring something into the world in your own way and on your own terms? It's a bold question, right? Because we think sometimes that we have to create things according to the roadmaps that already exist or the roadmaps that are most followed. But building your own table means you're doing something that's never been done. And it might mean that the roadmaps that you're aware of and the processes that you've been trained on, maybe they're outdated. And the way that we give away our power can be that we put down these ideas that actually have been brewing within us for a long time. As an entrepreneur in building my business, I have definitely wanted to be invited to many tables, whether it's a networking group, whether it's a speaking opportunity, whether it's a potential client, right? There's been that energy of pick me, pick me. And this also goes into my corporate career, right? Wanting to be asked for the promotion, wanting to be invited to the conversation where decisions are being made. Like when you're ambitious and when you want to have impact, these desires are normal. And we have to realize we have the choice to create what it is we want. Now, it may not look like exactly how you have it pictured in your mind, right? Maybe we want that TEDx talk or that TED talk opportunity, but you can create your own TED talk. You can create your own event if that's what you really desire. You can create your own table in that regard. And actually that's exactly what I did last year. I had something to say about inner critics, that's the work that I do, and I created my own event to bring people to hear what I had to say about inner critics in the goal of changing lives and having impact. I even bet on myself and had a production team come and video it. And it was the first time I had ever given this talk. I mean, that's pretty ballsy, but that's me betting on myself. And that's me saying, I want to create this table so that I can do what's in my heart to do. But also, in the back of my mind, it was also about eventually getting invited to other tables that were much bigger than ones I could create on my own with the level of investment that I have for it, right? I found over and over again in the work that I've done to build a business is like, I have to take the steps first. I have to create what I want to create. And maybe that will lead to the invitations that are actually meant for me. And I'm able to attract the places that I want to be because I'm taking this step first. One example of this, right, is this fact that I've written a ton of blogs over these several years. I've written over like 100 blogs. I put them on my website, right? Because I'm creating a thing. It's not me publishing on some third party that already has an existing audience. I'm creating the audience. I have been creating my audience. Now, hopefully, I will be able to access bigger audiences, but it just goes to this idea of me creating the table myself and empowering myself to do so. The other part about following what is in our hearts to do and being a part of the conversations we want to be a part of is that it's so empowering for other people to not only see you do it, but also to support you in doing it. For me, and I've talked about this before, right? But this idea of rugged individualism and just, do it all yourself and like don't ask for help unless you're like literally falling off the damn cliff. That way of thinking doesn't serve anybody. It certainly doesn't serve you. And it doesn't serve the people that actually want to support you. My guess is if you have an idea that you've been wanting to bring to life, and I don't care if that's quilting your next blanket or solving for world hunger, there are some other people in your life that would probably love to see you do this, to be a part of you doing it. and that you would be an inspiration for them. So you don't have to create the table on your own, right? You can enlist others. You can see who's with you. And that was also a big part of my aha when I put that event together to give my keynote talk about inner critics. Was I had people asking me, "Hey, like do you need any help? Like who do you have on your team?" And I realized that like I wasn't enlisting anybody. Like I had created this whole talk. I went through the whole excavation of what do I have to say. I was putting this event together and all the logistics, and I realized I didn't like recruit anybody on my team. And here people were volunteering. It may sound or feel overwhelming for you to go after that idea, whether it was a new book or a memoir, or whether it's about bringing a few people around the table to talk about something you're interested in. It may feel like an overwhelming task, but if you consider what support you could enlist, it might feel a whole lot less intense. And part of this is when you give people the opportunity to give to you, not only do you receive, but they receive too. They receive the opportunity to feel needed and to feel valued because they're being of support. It's just like the whole flow of life, giving and receiving. And oftentimes we can be out of balance and not realize it. We think we're, doing the right thing by not asking for support, but actually we're blocking our blessings when we do that. And this stuff is contagious, like when you do the thing that you're meant to do, other people get inspired by that. You shining your light gives other people permission to shine their light. It's not a selfish act. It's actually very selfless to honor what's inside of you. And for those listeners, right, who are leaders or consider themselves leaders, and that doesn't mean you're managing a team either. The way I define leadership is you hold yourself accountable and responsible for the impact you have on the people around you. When you think about leadership, you can think about it in terms of, well, we have to think about the sandbox that we've been given. We have to really consider what are the lanes that we are being told we have to stay in, and what are the envelopes that we need to push around all of this so that we can move society forward, our businesses forward, our initiatives forward. And sometimes that means we really have to consider if we have to be the ones to create a new table, create a new conversation, create a committee, bring something up in a meeting that might sound taboo. Maybe you have to change the game with where you are. And that requires being courageous and saying we have to do something different here if we want different results. This is a muscle to build in terms of, first of all, being aware of what it is that we have a deep desire to create, but also being aware of what are other people trying to create that maybe I've not been paying attention to, but I want to support or I want to be a part of. It can go both ways. So here's a little bit of tough love for you. If you've been complaining, if you've been frustrated, if you're pissed off about the way things are, great. That is fuel. It is fuel for you to determine how are you going to put the power in your own hands to make the change, to make the difference, to change the conversation, to influence leaders, to influence those who have some authority or some power that maybe you don't. What are you going to do to take action on the things because you have complete control over yourself and what you create in the world? And I'm inviting you in this episode to really think hard about what it is that you're ready to create. It is spring. Spring is when ideas are sprouting and seeds are being planted for the future seasons. So go ahead and plant your damn seeds. And if I can be of support in that, oh my gosh, please reach out. You can email me at breakthrough@toscadimatteo.com. I love supporting folks in bringing their ideas to the world and helping them feel like it's possible. because it is. I'm over here sitting on a podcast. Okay. It's possible to create whatever the heck you want. That's what I want to talk to you about. I hope that this episode really got you thinking. I hope it maybe even got you a little pumped to take one little micro action around this. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do too. If something came up for you during this episode, I want you to commit right now to one tiny action that moves that idea forward. It might be, I'm going to talk to my best friend about it. It might be, I'm going to go to the store and buy the book about whatever, about starting a podcast or whatever the thing might be. One micro step, it can make a world of difference to honoring what it is that you need to create. And if there's an inner critic coming up that says, oh my gosh, but all these other people do this stuff. Oh, there's a million podcasts out there. Or, oh, everybody talks about the thing that I'm passionate about. Well, just remember, nobody does it the way that you do it. Nobody has the perspective that you have. Nobody has the specific experience that you have, your personality, how you share yourself. And so it matters that you bring it forth. You are unique. And there is an audience and there is a purpose and there is a reason for you bringing it to the world and not somebody else. I can sit here and have inner critics show up and tell me, why am I sitting here talking about this stuff? Other people talk about this stuff. So I'm saying that I get that we can hold ourselves back from these things because we have voices in our head and narratives in our head that steer us in a different direction, that steer us from disappointment and failure and fear of what it is we want to put out in the world. But we have got to push past that. We have got to quiet those narratives and bring in the narratives that actually serve us. The ones that say, I need to honor this whisper in my heart. The ones that say, who cares if it doesn't work out? I just feel like I have to try. And maybe you trying the thing is what leads you to the next thing that's even more pertinent to your path. So just remember that honoring the whisper doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the thing that becomes your number one. It just might be the pathway to what's meant for you and your magic and your light shining in the world. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox, folks. Thank you for coming to the Unlock Lab. I love having you here. And as a reminder, if you want me to answer your question live on this podcast, you can email me at breakthrough@toscadimatteo.com or check the show notes for a link to make it an anonymous question. And I will answer your questions on a future all access episode. Thanks again for being here. Happy spring and ciao for now.